Okay, we're ready to get back together. Karen has stopped talking. Thank you.
All right, we have a reading from Ecclesiastes 4,
Oh, hell.
9 to 12. Two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person fails, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple-braided cord is not easily broken. So we ended off with letting you know about Marriage Encounter, and I hope that you got the gist of what I was talking about if you couldn't hear me. Once our community disbanded, for a long time we were good because we had our tools and we were communicating and everything was good. But eventually, once again, life happens and it broke down. Our girls were becoming teenagers and we felt that they needed more of us involved in them, and at the same time less. It was more of quantity time to make sure that we kept the communication lines with them. So he'd take one and I would take the other, and we'd be off and doing things with them. We started looking for more accolades at work. We became a disillusion with the Catholic Church. We were so hungry to be fed at the church, and we weren't being fed. We had grown closer to God, so we had a really good, strong relationship with Him, but what we were hearing in the church wasn't coming across with what we believed. In a contract, if you miss a payment, you don't do your part completely, the contract can be broken. But in a covenant, you allow the freedom to grow and succeed and fail, and you still say, I am with you.
In 2007, I became consumed with defeat on a personal and professional level. I was part of a management team that had tried to buy the same group of assets 3 times and failed. I was working in ministries, Stephen Ministry, Christ Care Ministry, through the Catholic Church, and they disbanded it because it wasn't authorized by the Archdiocese. Endless items seemed to picking away at what I was involved in and what I was doing. And it just was weighing on me. And I was locked in a job I couldn't get out of, nor did I have any other place to go at the time. The capper was my new grandson, the only boy in our lineage, and he has a bleeding disorder. And it wasn't his fault, of course, it was genetics, but it finally skipped a generation and caught up with us. The only way I can describe that year is I felt like it was the year I lost my soul. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it so much I didn't even want to find it. It had nothing to do with me. It was all about just doing what minimal amount that I needed to get done. I was definitely in my desert. This lasted a while. I'd go to the work, do my job, come home from work, say hello to Suzanne, go downstairs to the basement and work some more, because I could actually remote from home. What a cursing that turned out to be. Not only was I not engaging God, but I was keeping Suzanne to minimum amount exposure. The 3 in our marriage became me and those other 2. Now, I had some role models. We had couple community that had disbanded. And I had tools, just didn't have any desire to practice them. And it dawned on me today, it's kind of when you decide not to brush your teeth. It's not a good thing. Okay? You may decide to skip a time or two, but eventually it's going to get up to you if you keep not brushing your teeth. So you need the tools to keep you actively engaged in what you're with your spouse and what you're doing.
I'm glad he brushed his teeth. Okay, at the time that he was going through this darkness, I was in the midst of preparing for our second daughter's wedding. A wedding we thought would never, ever happen. She and her now husband had been living together for 5 years. And it was a strange relationship, and for a long time I never accepted him, but they finally decided they were going to get married. So while he was over here in his dark little hole, I was trying to be in the light and plan a wedding. And he would come out of it every once in a while and go, "Why are you spending so much money?" And I would say, "Hey, we're celebrating their love. We're going to do this right, you know?" But as time went on, like he said, we had the tools, and you can nudge, and sometimes you poke with a fork, and it doesn't help. When you're lying in bed with the person that you love, and you're as lonely as you ever could be, because that relationship isn't working, because you're not sharing, because he's not sharing, that's sad. And I'm praying to God, and I'm saying, "God, help me. Show me what I need to do to him. Show me what I need to give to him. Help me do something." And it went on, and it got deeper and deeper. It got to the point that when I would leave for work in the morning, I didn't want to come home. Not because I didn't want to be with him, because of fear of what I would find. I got to the point that I was afraid that I'd come home to a dark house and he'd be gone and he'd be dead. And that scared me. He was that low, he was that turned off, tuned out from God. We got through the wedding and things didn't get any better. And I kept praying, and I don't know where it came from, because divorce isn't in our vocabulary. It's just not. We work at what we need to do. He'd always been the spiritual leader. We couldn't go to church, because if he went to church with me, he'd sit there and he'd go, you know, they'd be saying something up at the pulpit, and he'd like, and I'd be like, "Oh, please stop, will you?" Or we'd go home and we'd fight about what they said. So he stopped going with me, and that hurt, because I knew he desired that relationship, but he'd closed the doors. He'd always been the spiritual leader. He was always leading our family to where we needed to be in our relationship, and he just wasn't there anymore. You looked in his eyes and you didn't see God. You didn't see that love. My biggest fear was that he had closed that door and wouldn't reopen it. A fear that wound up inside me like a snake coiling around my body. I just couldn't take it anymore. So I sat down with him one night, coming home from work, and the house was dark, and we sit there and we talked. And I told him I was afraid that something bad was going to happen. And I said to him, "This is it. I can't do this anymore. I've tried. I can't communicate with you. You're not giving. I can't be with a man who doesn't have a relationship with God."
My response was, I could see the light. I knew what I was doing. I could see the damage I was doing. I was pulling our relationship in the same hole that I had fallen into. And I could see that. Now I'm in this hole, I couldn't see my way out. What am I going to do? God's got to take care of this. I don't know what to do. So we trudged on for a while. Shortly thereafter, a friend of mine that I hadn't heard from in 10 years, who ran a gym, who didn't do anything religious at all, called me up and asked me to come over and take a look at his PC. It wasn't working right. Well, I got over there, and I don't think he called me for the PC because it wasn't any big issue to me. But he started talking about Joel Osteen and talking about listening to what he had to say, and that he was picking up his spirits and getting him into some books, and challenged me about my beliefs. And I didn't have much to say, and he was surprised because prior to that I always had something to say. Later that year, at my daughter's wedding, my sister-in-law, I've talked to my sister-in-law about spiritual things once before that, about 10 years before that. She comes up to us, and we had high top tables like this one, puts her hand down and said, "Next Wednesday, I'm going to pick you up at the Anderson Mall. I'm going to get you in my car, we're going to go to Crossroads." Now, it took us a little bit to get down here on Wednesday night because my sister-in-law doesn't like to make left turns. We were all the way through downtown. We got to the service, and we're sitting in back, and I don't remember even who's speaking. But what I was in awe of is the very seminars that we had attended, the I Still Do conference in DC, a marriage conference, one after another with Marriage Encounter when we got first involved with it. They all charge anywhere from $100 to $400 per conference. I'm hearing the same kind of message from somebody. It's not costing me anything. I just needed to sit and listen. And he was talking to me, and I can't even remember what he was talking about, but he was talking to me. So I went back the next weekend, continued to go back weekend after weekend, would share with Suzanne what I was running into, and of course it wasn't the church that she was thinking about going back to, nor the situation she was thinking about going back to, but I went on. I wasn't feeling connected. I was going, but did the volunteer and did the boxes that we're doing like now, and volunteered for Waited, did those kinds of things. And then the call came for help in January. So I volunteered for the one thing I thought I could manage, and that was the info center. I'm a computer guy. What else do I know? Info. If I didn't know it all together, I could make something up. As we got into the Lent season, closer to Easter, Saturday night, and I served at the 8:30 service every Sunday once I got involved with the info center. But this one Saturday night, I happened to watch Ten Commandments. Now, I've seen that movie hundreds of times. And I thought, well, this will put me to sleep. So I'm watching it, and it's the desert scene, where they're out in the desert, and the Jews are fledgling along, trying to get through the day, wondering what this stuff is coming from the sky to eat, and having their trials and tribulations. I thought, well, this is nuts, so I turned it off. The next morning, I go to the info center. Busy as usual, and it's surprising to me that very few people come up really wanting to know anything about any info. A young lady about mid-30s comes up and says, "Would you come over and help me with the computers?" And so they had the computers by the post here in Oakley. And I said, sure. So we start walking over the computers. She starts unloading on a story with her mother that was unbelievable. Her mother had been in a nursing home for years, struggling with immense pain that the doctors can't find a way to treat, and it was tearing at her. She said, "I don't know how Mom's going to make it through this. I don't know what she's going to do with this, and I can't do anything about it. I'm so frustrated with the situation." I'm no authority. I have no idea what you're going through. I have no idea what your mother is suffering through. But I did remember what I saw last night. I remember seeing Jews going through a desert in a story that was about God and how they struggled getting through that desert. And I said, the only good news about that story in all of what the trials and tribulations were is where they were headed, and that was the Promised Land. And I said, so I know one thing, no matter what your mother's going through, where she's headed is that Promised Land. Well, her eyes swelled up, and mine started too. So she said, "Thank you very much," and left. I went back to the info center, and I'm looking all around, seeing where's the light. That wasn't me. The message to me, God was still with me. He'd always been with me. In my darkness, in our light. And from that day forward, I've done nothing but do my best to honor him in what I can do, to the best of my ability. Now, I'm not perfect, but I do try, and that's all he's asking for.
So when he came home that day and he told me about this, because like he said, I wasn't going to Crossroads. I was still trying to go to Catholic Church. And yeah, I was sort of like, okay, God, you got him to go to church, but now he's going to a different church. So that's a whole other set of problems. But we dealt with that, and I'm now going to Crossroads. But when he came home and he told me about the story about the lady and what he had said, he broke down and he cried just like a little baby. This guy doesn't cry. I mean, he just, maybe 3 times in my whole lifetime with him, I've seen him cry. But he broke down and he cried, and I could see the light back in his eyes. I could see that he had opened the doors, and it was just like a ray of sunshine coming back out. Now, one of the things that attracted to me to Jerry from the very get-go was that special light in his eyes when he talked about Jesus and his relationship. Most ladies would say, if you ask them, say, well, what attracted to your spouse, your boyfriend? And they might say, oh, he was really cute, so funny, had a great smile. Jerry had all of those, but what sent me over the edge was when he talked about his relationship with Jesus. So that day when he came home, he told me, I just said, thank you, Jesus, it's done. What we learned from that period of our relationship where he was in the darkest of the desert and I was trying to push through, we learned that we need to have patience, that God works in his own time, that he gives us the tools and we have to use them. We want to use them to be able to enrich our covenant with each other and with him. So, I think we're at our next table exercise. To reach something good, it is very useful to have gone astray and thus acquire the experience. For our second table exercise, we'd like you to write a promise letter to your spouse. Write down the promises that you want to make to them, and then tell them what it means, how it makes you feel to make that promise. But we want you to do it a little bit differently. We want you to start with what you think today is your spouse's most endearing quality. For example, I would say, Jerry, your most endearing quality is your patience with me today, getting here on time and getting everything set up. So start with what you think is the most endearing quality that your spouse has shown to you today. And if you haven't had time to spend with them today, then do it yesterday. And then tell them about the promises you want to make and how does that make you feel. You'll have 10 minutes to write and then 10 minutes to share with your spouse.
On the table, there should be a little small letter that says promise on it.
Yeah, write that, use that to write.